Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Alvaro and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Gus and Nate. Tonight you'll be staying in room 126, Everything Everywhere All at Once, directed by Daniels. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we travel through the multiverse with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Evelyn, I'm not your husband. I'm another version of one from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
What's going on, all you IRS agents? Thanks for checking back in the Grand Cinema Hotel. If you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to smash that like button, give us a subscribe, give us a follow. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever else, subscribe to the notification so you can see when we drop some new videos, episodes. You know what it is. But after a week off, we are back with a movie that we were very highly anticipating. I think we all saw this trailer together when we saw Red Rocket back in December. And ever since then, this has kind of been a waiting game. But damn, this movie hit. And before we get into it, how did you guys feel like leading up to it? Getting out of the movie, how'd you feel?
You want to go first, Ro?
Sure. I will say that the biggest thing that stood out to me when we first saw the trailer was that I thought it was pretty ballsy that they were going to do it before Marvel's big multiverse thing, which made me feel kind of confident that they knew that enough that it was going to be different and it was going to be more crafted on the storytelling. I was really excited for this movie when we saw the trailer Christmas last year, and I've seen this movie now 5 times. I think for me, it exceeded expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I think that's the reason why. And yeah, we're here to talk about it, which I have so much to say.
So I was really excited for this movie. It did take a while for me to see it. I don't think I saw it like its opening weekend. I don't think any of me, Nate, and Ro all saw this at different times. So Nate saw it by himself. I saw it with Ro twice, and then I seen it with my wife. So I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I don't even know if I had expectations going into this. I just thought, like, that looks cool. But I didn't really think one way or another, like, that's gonna suck, or that it would be like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, which it ended up being.
Yeah.
But I never thought going into it that it would even be in the conversation of thinking about it, like, oh, is that one of the best movies you've seen? That has truly caught me by surprise. I saw Swiss Army Man, which is Daniel's last film, and you said you've seen that too. Right, Nate?
I've seen it a couple times.
I don't think there's any way you could have seen this coming next.
No.
Right?
I mean, I don't.
Farting Corpse is
I'm like,
hilarious
I don't
on
really
its
know what
own.
you expect to go from that anyways,
Yeah.
but no, for sure.
Right? But this movie just completely blew me away. I mean, we'll get to it later with the cast, but Michelle Yeoh is amazing. It's one of the best acting performances I think I've ever seen. The choreography and the martial arts and the effects and just what they were able to do with such a small budget, and bringing Ki Kwan out of retirement basically, and having James Hong being like his 400th movie.
Right.
It was a lot, and I think this movie is a tiny bit overwhelming, but in the best possible way, honestly.
That's a good way to put it. I remember like seeing the trailer. I remember the first time we saw it. Like I think we all looked at each other and like, okay, like cool. That's interesting. But kind of piggybacking off what you said, Gus, I don't think I really had many expectations because it seemed like a very ambitious movie, and I don't think you could have really grasped what it really was about at the core from seeing the trailer. But it really did get me interested and excited, and then after seeing this movie, I definitely did not expect it to hit me as hard as it did. I was expecting kind of like a fun time, whatever. I didn't really expect all of the, the emotional strings that it really did pull and the grasp on humanity that I think they had to make this movie.
So
But
I think that they did one of the A24's best jobs of marketing this movie. So they market it in a way where it doesn't look like it's going to gut punch you like that. When you watch it, you're just like, whoa, A24 is for the first time doing something that looks fun.
We got some googly eyes,
Holy crap, who would have thought A24
Right.
doesn't want to make you take a shower after every movie that you see? So that was exciting on its own. And then when you realize that it's not like The Matrix really, or comparing it to like Doctor Strange, it's not like those things.
No, because I honestly thought it
similar like plot. It has similar plot devices, but they're so far different.
Yeah, like I honestly thought it might have ended up being a superhero movie. Like I remember after seeing the trailer, I was like, "Are we gonna get our first like A24 superhero movie, really?" But I mean, in a way, no, but no, it's not at all. It has
It's closer
nothing.
to an anime than it is
Yeah,
a comic
it really is. It
or
really
a
is.
manga. You know what I mean? It's more on that line of where it's like a person can become a hero, but that doesn't mean that they're like a superhero.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Goku's not a superhero or Naruto's not a superhero. Even though they have those powers, it's not like that's their thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
No,
that's
it
kind of
makes
how I
sense.
feel about this movie.
No, that's a good way to put it.
I have heard, but I have heard that Daniels, they say that they took more inspiration from things like comic books and mangas and animes than they did movies. And I think for the first time, I could really understand what they mean by that. Like, I'm sure some other directors have said that, but this does feel the most like either like a book or a piece of art or like a cartoon. You know what I mean? Like in the best ways. I don't mean that
It's truly
derogatory at all.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, what I was gonna say is the Matrix comparisons are obvious. They're really huge fans of the Matrix, which is I don't think this movie exists without the Matrix. You know, I think that's the kind of stuff that a great movie like the Matrix sets precedents for. But they also grew up obviously watching a lot of practical effects Hong Kong cinema, which is like all those martial arts movies with Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh is in obviously a good amount of them. It's really intense, all that wire work, and we get some of that in this movie, and I think that's why it works so well. I don't know the current like landscape of I guess you would call it like stuntmen. I don't know how much they use wires anymore, you know, but I do think that using the wires the way that they did in this movie and the scenes that I have used it, like it stood out. They'd be like, I was like, how did they do that? And then later to find out, oh, it's wires. But the whole movie really just exists based off of what you're saying, mix like all of the things that they love and literally putting it on a dish and just hashing out how to really make this a coherent story. And I think they succeeded in doing it, which just seems extremely hard, but this one's like it worked out for them.
Because I do feel like this movie you could have like really easily lost the audience, I think. You know what I mean? With everything that goes on, like there really is so much going on in this film. But that's just, I guess, a testament to the Daniels, you know, their director like abilities to be able to hone in all of these different ideas and really put it on a digestible plate that really brings it home for the audience, I think. So
I agree.
I like the idea that, okay, maybe you're not going to get to make a bunch of movies in your career because some people just make one. And even it could be successful and then for some reason it just never works out again. That who knows what the hell they could possibly do next when they've pretty much done everything.
they literally just did everything everywhere
Yeah.
all at once.
The movie really doesn't undersell you with the title. Like that really is what's going on. Everything, everywhere, all at once. And I think that's a really interesting move for them to make because it does kind of they metaphorically and literally put their cards on the table and like this is everything I have to offer the world.
No, true.
And for it to be an emotionally driven movie like that, I think that's I think that's awesome. I kind of lost what I was gonna say, but yeah, in simple words, I think it's really awesome that they chose to go that direction.
Just like, yeah, the fact that they focus on that family dynamic and like what would be in I guess like a romantic comedy as being like the story, but then everything around it that transforms Michelle Yeoh's character into a better person, or the narrative of like the circle of what did they call it, like in a character redemption arc is what they call it, but you could see like the sci-fi aspects are how she's growing as a person, but the like romantic comedy issues are the problems that she faces that are which all of us can relate to. Yes, all of us can't relate to maybe the sci-fi part, but it does take the back burner in this movie to like all of these issues, cultural issues, family issues, mother and daughter, father and daughter, everything, two spouses, the IRS, which is like, I just thought that was so funny there's always the joke or like the saying, like there's only two things that are certain is death and taxes. And I do think like this movie almost proves like how many of us just hate the IRS and the reason why we do. and it's just really funny. I never thought that like a movie would make me emotional because of that connection. Be like, oh, I can relate to that. And yeah,
I happen to think this is one of the most relatable movies I've ever seen.
I feel like this movie was made for like humanity as a whole. Like that's really how I feel, you know?
Definitely. It's funny that you say that, Ro, about like with the whole IRS thing, because I had seen that a way to keep this movie under wraps for so long. The the like log line was a lady tries to do her taxes. That was the only way they described the movie for the longest time.
I mean, not wrong.
That is what happens in this movie. Yeah, the lady does do her taxes, but a lot of stuff happens in between that. Just going a little more on what Ro was saying about the dynamics that you get in this movie. I don't think we have a problem saying that all three of us got like pretty emotional watching this movie.
I'm not even,
right?
dude. I cried like 7 times during this movie. Like, I'm not even gonna
I've cried
lie,
every
dude.
single time. You know what's actually really interesting is, since I had watched it a couple of times, like you guys said, the first 2 times that I watched it, just amazed that it happened, and then the last time that I watched it with Gus and I took my brother to watch it, the movie started, and with the opening scene, I got emotional.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, because I already know where the movie's going. And then I'm like, literally from the first scene, I already like, oh, family, like this is so cute. And I already started thinking like, this movie, that's all it is. Be like, this is so cute. This is so sad. This is so fucking funny. This is so sad. Like at every, like a sentence could have all 3 of those emotions. And you're like, how does that make any sense? It's very chaotic story wise. And also like the emotionally, it's just a chaos.
Yeah, it really does hit. I did go. The day that I saw it, I was in a little emotional mood, and I was like, "All right, like here we go," and it just absolutely ripped me to shreds. But by the time it was over, like the movie almost is like a therapy session. Like it's very therapeutic. It's very cathartic. Like it really does focus on these problems and a lot of views that I feel like a lot of people have nowadays, like the nihilism that we have in today's society. Like it really is like it's rampant, and I just think that this is a movie that can kind of like almost settle people back down and just like focus on the little things. So
I think cathartic is a good word because this movie is so overwhelming that like deep breath you take when it's finally over. It's
like holy shit, like we got
lot.
through it.
Yeah.
Like we really got through it in a great way, like because I mean basically like this movie really just it presents like nihilism and like
The other extreme, right, which would be like, I don't know what it'd be referred
like
to.
absurdism or like existentialism, I guess, like the idea of nothing matters. Like existentialism and nihilism are basically both that like nothing matters, there's no intrinsic values like that are like certain, but like existentialism goes into absurdism, basically saying like you as a person can like through self-awareness and through free will and through like thinking you can make purpose on your own.
Right.
And I think that's basically what this movie really tackles, and to really do it in a way that is super unique. Like it was just such a cool experience.
I agree.
I didn't write down a lot of notes for this movie because I find it overwhelming as well. Like everything about this movie is overwhelming. But one thing I did want to talk about, and maybe we could get into this all together because we've never really done this on the pod, is what are the reasons you think people would not like this movie? Because this movie is very divisive, surprisingly.
I was also really like I expected to go look at the reviews from this movie and everybody was just like, oh my God, this is perfect. But it's either like, this hit me so hard, this is extremely relatable, and then it seems like people that just don't really get it. And I don't really know exactly what that is, but I mean, a lot of it probably maybe has to do with personal philosophy maybe and how people actually view the world. Like, I don't know. Like, this is a movie that really does get down to like cores about people and stuff. So that stuff is always gonna be polarizing, I feel like. But I don't know.
That's true. I do think that this is putting a lot of blame on a lot of people, but that it's like, are you so negative? Or are we as a society so negative that when you see something like this, you're like, that's corny.
Yeah.
Or that's so unrealistic. Oh, really? Kindness is the answer. And it's like, I think that we've gone so far in one direction of being negative as a whole that when you see this kind of stuff, it's just like,
get that out of my face. Like, I don't need this fluff. Like,
I don't need the reminder that kindness is the answer. When in reality, I mean, it doesn't fix everything.
No.
But it is a better way to live life.
Exactly.
I think it's sad that it is seen that way, and I do think what's crazy is that I feel like we do need to be reminded, personally. And I think a lot of the hate does come from this movie notching up, like being number 1 on what is it, IMDb, right? It has the highest rating. I think it's both, but it has the highest rating. Like, it's higher rated than Parasite.
IMDb's for old people, so it'd be like The Godfather's still number 1.
So I think so I think, like, obviously the same way now there seems to be a divisiveness. It's funny because I have a quote about this. I didn't know when I would be able, because the Daniels well, Daniel Kwan had a really interesting quote about that, but it just seems now like it's very versus, so it's art cinema versus the Marvel Bros, as they call it. But it just seemed now that like when a movie does do really good, like this is doing, and people that really love it, it just seems like somebody kind of goes in waiting to see what's wrong with it. Right. And you could see it, I guess, as corny, but I really agree with you guys. Like, I can't believe that heartfelt things are just corny like that. They can't, like Gus has said this before too, like why does everything have to make you feel like you have to take a shower after? Why does it have to be so edgelord? Like why does everything have to be oh my god, you're right, life is shit, and that movie just portrayed it with like, well, the movie you said it too, like this movie portrays that, but then it also gives you the other side of like, yes, stuff doesn't matter, but why not be a good person?
Yeah, like why not find acceptance and enjoy the peace in that? You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people like, you know, maybe don't want to hear that because that is really fucking hard to do. And like, I think that's what this movie shows is it's not easy. Like, look at the movie. Like, look at everything she had to go through to get to that other side. You know what I mean? And it's a lot, like self-betterment stuff,
it's kind of
dude.
like Interstellar. Like love is the answer.
Exactly. And like that's literally the grift people have with that movie. You know what I mean? Like really, like that would. But I mean, come on, like I do think like we are human beings and like we are emotional. So like some of the art that we're gonna make is just narratively driven through emotion.
Yeah.
Like how we talked about, like in the Northman, they believed that there was a sword that killed dragon. So there was a sword that killed dragon. So like we believe that love could cure a disease. So in a movie, why not?
Yeah.
It's a movie, you know?
No, you gotta, like, especially with this movie, like, you have to bring down your walls, and I think just go into it very open and just sponge it up. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just go on the ride with her, you know?
It's very interesting that, like, big budget movies, and not even just Marvel, but, like, The Northman as well. It's like, if anything like that is positive, or has a good message for it, it's like what you would expect, right? You're like, why would you make a $200 million movie that's nihilist? But then you make an indie movie and it's like, why would you ever spend $25 million to make a movie about people being happy?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't understand that.
It is
like
really
the number
weird.
one thing is Marvel, right? In the entire world. And for the most part, it's pretty positive.
It's super
and happy.
chipper, yeah. Like, it really is.
So it's like, this is kind of, if we're talking about the dollars, it's like, that's what people like, they want to leave feeling happy.
Yeah.
I guess I do want to share the quote real quick. Daniel Kwan said this. It says, "The cinematic experience, the film industry has gotten really divided. There's such a tension between critics and audiences. The fanboys versus the cinephiles, the debate between Marvel versus Scorsese. All this stuff, it feels so silly because it's all film. It's all cinema. It's all what we love. And this movie was very much us trying to combine all of it in a way was like, look, we could do all of it and we should do all of it because that's how the landscape has changed. The world is different. We need different kinds of stories. And we wanted to make a movie that was just as big and loud and as fun as a big blockbuster film so that it could hold its own in theaters while also infusing it with much sincerity and risk-taking and heart of our favorite indie movies. So we've been calling it a Beyond Sausage or an Impossible Burger. It's engineered to taste like a blockbuster and look like a blockbuster, but once it goes down your belly, it feels really good, like you're doing something good for the world."
Yeah.
And I think that's like obviously very, we just kind of started talking about the topic, but that seems like there was an end game in the making the movie. Like we said, like, why not just have a movie that's about feel good stuff? Why does it have to be, you know, Thanos erased half of the world? Like, okay, well, what if there was a person who just was like, able to convince Thanos, like, maybe we should all just start loving each other.
Yeah, maybe we should just relax for a second.
Yeah. And then they all got along.
Just be a rock, my guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not interesting, right? For there to be a happy ending in most things, people. Maybe we're just negative now. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I also think one of the reasons this movie is divisive, because that's the topic that we had started on about this, is that I do think it has a lot to do with the positivity train around the movie and the hype itself. I mean, I think we're all victim of doing it to things we don't like, right? It's like Marvel becomes number one, like, that shit
on it,
sucks,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And then something like this becomes number one, and then, it's just trying to copy Marvel, and it is all just one thing, really. Mm-hmm. Because me and Ro saw Doctor Strange this weekend.
Boo.
Yeah, exactly. I paused for the boo. You can revoke my Cinephile card. Ro, give up your A24 membership.
It's okay. You can do we're starting the motel now.
Marvel movies belong in motels, not hotels. But it's all one thing. And what I was telling Ro too is like, I understand not liking Marvel as a whole for certain reasons, but to actually watch each movie and to be like, this is all exactly the same is a horseshit argument, because they are different enough to where it's like, I'll stop in for this one, but I'm not going to stop in for this one.
Yeah.
Like, did I enjoy Doctor Strange? Yes. Did I think it was an amazing movie? No, I did not. I actually enjoyed less of it than I did overall. You know what I mean? Like, there was a good amount of it I did not like, but I still thought it was fun. But then something like Eternals, I was just like, I'm not even going to watch that.
But then you got the Thor movies, and even I like those. You know what I mean?
See?
So
exactly.
I mean, I will say just for a minute, and don't want to get too much into this, like people are kind of bashing on the Doctor Strange movie, and me and Gus walked out of it. It seemed like it was one of the first few movies in Marvel actually let the director have their signature style. And then we were kind of talking about how like Sam Raimi kind of is known for being horror corny. So maybe it just worked. Maybe it's just because they're both kind of like in the same type of storytelling Disney. Maybe they give him more of a leash. But this movie felt like at least they let him do what he wanted to do. There was a lot of cool scenes that I think cinematography-wise is what I like more about Doctor Strange, where I was like, it seemed like there was a lot of his style. Yeah, we were talking about that. As we were talking about.
Yes, computers do have cameras in them, but to call that cinematography is... It's not what Orson Welles was thinking.
But I did find it interesting because it doesn't necessarily follow the Marvel formula, and people aren't liking it on... I guess I can't even say on what side is what. I don't know if the Marvel fanboys aren't liking it. I don't know if the critics are the ones saying it. At this point, it's just people who don't like it seem to nitpick. You're never going to make a movie that everybody likes, but this seems to me the closest that somebody could. I really having a hard time with Everything Everywhere All at Once, figuring out. Like, I've asked someone why they didn't like it, like on some of the discussions I've had, like on Reddit. I was just curious. Like, I was just curious, why don't you like it? The responses are always very like, you're nitpicking something. Like, you could say this about any movie. Like, I just thought the idea was dumb. Like, I just thought the characters were really dumb. Like, why? Like, just because you say so?
Yeah,
you're not giving me a reason why. It's all coming like, I think. Like, okay, well, you are entitled to your opinion, but you can't tell me that because of your thoughts, I shouldn't like it.
Right.
Like, give me a reason. Like, oh, I don't know, the character wasn't developed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation off pod many times. I think we've brought it up before, but I've talked to you, Ro, before about like, why do you think people have such a hard time separating their personal taste from something actually being good and bad?
yeah,
right?
like look at it between like subjective and objectively. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like okay, there's a lot of things that I don't think are good, but I like them. And then there's a lot of things that people really love that I just don't like.
Yeah.
And it's a personal thing. And you could tell me like, I could be like, yes, this song, the guitars sound nice. That's a nice drum pattern. Wow, those vocals were engineered perfectly. But I could still not like it. You know what I mean? And I do think that people just have such a hard time separating those things. And it's just like what he said. It's a Reddit comment of like, I just thought the character sucked. Like, yeah, but you could say that about anything.
It's because Darth Vader 709er said so. It doesn't make it true. Like.
And after the second time I had seen it with Ro and his brother, I was in the bathroom, and I was in the bathroom blowing it up. So I had a lot of time to be in there. And I heard two guys talking at the urinal, and they were saying, like, I get it, bro. And I always think that's just the most dumb argument. It's not even an argument. No. It's just a statement. It's like, I get it, bro. And I mean, I'm sure I'm guilty of saying that too before in things I didn't like, but I don't know. The older I get, that doesn't seem like criticism to me. Because he was saying that this guy was saying that he didn't think like the jokes were that funny or like the movie. He's like, just let me watch the movie. You don't have to tell me what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, that's what exposition is, you fucking dumbass.
It's kind of a big part of film and story and whatever.
Like, I understand there is ways of doing exposition better, but it's exposition. There's exposition in every fucking movie, unless you're watching something like 2001.
It's a ridiculous art house movie.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, we can get off why people didn't like it because we love it, so who gives a fuck why people don't like it, right? I mean, I had put that in my Letterboxd review the second time I had seen it, and I was like, I fucking love this movie. I think this is one of the greatest movies of all time, and if you don't think so, I don't care, and I don't want to know why. Sorry.
Because, like, to honestly answer your question about what you said earlier about why maybe I think people don't like it, like, I really don't know. Like, you know what I mean? That's like
I don't.
Just have a difference of opinion. People just think they're, I don't know.
This podcast is an echo chamber, and if you have a different opinion than me, then you can get the fuck out.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't come here to hear your opinion. I came here to shove mine down.
You came here to listen to ours.
If I wanted to hear your opinion, I wouldn't have a podcast.
I'd be subscribed to yours, which you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, you don't like it? Start your own pod.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I won't listen to it.
On Anchor FM.
Yeah, that's the new ad. Cut the new ad. All right, you guys want to talk about the cast?
I was just saying, let's get into the cast.
This is an amazing cast.
Yes,
it's an
incredible cast.
I would say it's a quartet with a fifth man coming off the bench.
Yeah.
But this 4-man duo of Michelle Yeoh, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ki Kwan, and Stephanie Sue or Shu. Excuse me, I've always had a hard time with that name. Is it Hasu? Is it Sue?
I think
Is
it's
it
Sue.
I think it's Sue.
But I heard them one time when they were introducing her say it like Shu. So I was like, I never heard it like that before. So
Shoes on the other foot now.
yeah, I guess so, right?
It just sucks because she's one of the. Well,
This
go ahead.
quartet, though, this movie probably isn't going to get any Oscars love because it's too far away.
Probably.
But I think this should be the best ensemble cast because this is one of the best
phenomenal.
cast. Like the chemistry and the chemistry between this cast is incredible. Like Michelle Yeoh and Ki Kwan and Stephanie Sue, they actually seem like a real family.
I was going to say within the first 5 minutes, like I'm convinced this is a family. Like I'm already strapped in and ready to go. Like, you know what I mean? Their chemistry is off the chain.
I happen to think that whenever a movie has this much stuff going on and is this overstimulating within like the first 5-10 minutes, that kind of stuff really does sell you on the like chemistry that the characters have, because it must have taken so long to make these sequences happen that it kind of just does feel like an everyday life where it doesn't feel like they're acting. It feels like this is actually part of their life and the camera is just following them around. But yeah, that opening sequence with them of just the chaos of everyday life between this family is when I just knew within those first 5 minutes of watching the movie, I'm like, this is incredible, because it felt so much like somebody's real life that you would see. It's like when you go over to somebody's house and they're arguing with their parents, and then it's like, well, I gotta leave because I gotta go do laundry, and then I'm gonna stop at the grocery store, and then the dad is yelling. And this cast just did such a good job within those first 5 minutes of like getting me into the movie.
And something I want to highlight about this cast is like, because of the way that what this movie is with the multiverse, is they play different versions of themselves. You know what I mean? So it's not just, you know, what's his name? K-Kwan playing one version of Wayman. Like he plays three. Like, you know what I mean? And each one is totally distinguishable between the others. And I just think that it just adds to their acting abilities. Like they're not only playing themselves, they're playing themselves in 3-4 different versions each.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
incredible.
It is.
We'll start with Michelle Yeoh because I mean she's the star.
The
of
fucking
this show,
star,
right?
dude.
This is an amazing performance.
I don't even know what to say.
First lead overseas.
Yeah, I mean I get it and I don't get it. You know, where like I get it because Hollywood used to not have the balls to do things like this. And I guess I don't even know if people would consider like A24 as like part of the quote unquote Hollywood, you know? But they just didn't have the balls to do something like this before. And thankfully, after people knocking down the doors, that we finally get chances like this. So this is why things like, not to get too woke here, but like this is why things like representation matters. Because a couple of years ago, we would have not gotten this movie.
No,
this
never.
movie would have never even been. You would have never heard of it. It'd probably be on something like Blacklist, where you're like, dude, I read this really cool script that they were going to do, and they never sold it.
Yeah.
But so this movie to me is why representation matters, because maybe not every movie is going to be great, but you will get once there's the chance to tell these stories, who knows what the fuck you can really get. And I just think this movie's a prime example of that for sure. And that's why I think it's not so surprising that Michelle Yeoh has never had a starring role overseas, because it's typical in in our negative view of the world. Like yes, okay, a 60-year-old Chinese woman doesn't have a leading role. Like
Of course.
Yeah.
like no shit.
Nobody,
like,
none of them.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like me and Ro are Latinos, so like for us, I'm like, I'm still waiting to be seen one day. So now when I see these things happening, it does feel good, because you're like, finally, I'm starting to see different people who should have had these chances all along. Because who knows, Michelle Yeoh could have been in 15 movies that were like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. Or Ki Kwan.
That's what I was going to say. Like, Ki Kwan is even, like, I know we're going to get to him, but Michelle Yeoh, just to go back to what you were saying, when they wrote the script, they ended up thinking, like, there's only Michelle Yeoh can play this character. Only she fits this description of a person. Only she could obviously speak Chinese. And have enough acting prowess too. So I mean, Michelle Yeoh hadn't done anything over here for a while now. She read the script and she was in on it from day one because she felt finally that there was a script that she could show off. Not only that she could do martial arts, but that she was a good actress. And she almost was getting really emotional talking about that. And I just think the fact that they gave to her something that almost felt very personal to her is the same way that we received the audience as watching it. Maybe it's because I haven't seen Michelle Yeoh in any role like that, so it almost does feel like how Gus said, like, I'm just watching somebody's life, or I'm just watching this family. And same thing with Key. Like, I haven't seen, it's obviously, talk about that, it's been such a long time. And then Stephanie is only in like a TV show, I think. So
she's in a couple of TV shows on FX. I think she was in one of their music videos.
That's what they were saying. But it being such like what feels like a new cast is what made this movie feel so personal. And she's just obviously perfect for the role.
Did we bring up Jamie Lee Curtis? Did I say her name?
Not yet.
Well,
Maybe.
she does an amazing performance as always, and she's obviously I feel weird even saying that because it's like, because we live here in the United States, we have a weird view of like who's really actually famous. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sure around the world, maybe more people do know who Michelle Yeoh is.
Oh yeah.
But here, it's like Jamie Lee Curtis is like acting royalty, right? So she's in a supporting role, but she's probably the biggest name in this film for people like us here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
true.
But if you go to all those other Asian countries or places where those movies are shown, I'm sure Michelle Yeoh can't even walk down the street. You know what I mean?
I did find it interesting because Key and Michelle and everybody, they all glamorize, like they all like Jamie Lee Curtis, like Hollywood royalty, like they're happy to work with her, but she said she only signed on to it because Michelle Yeoh was doing it. And she said, my whole life wanted to work with her.
That's
so
really cool.
the minute that I knew that she was in it, she's like, I'm going to do it because Michelle Yeoh thought it was good enough to do. Because she's like, I didn't even read the script. She's like, I went through some of my lines. I was like, okay. She's like, Michelle Yeoh's in this, we'll do it.
Yeah,
really cool.
I heard Jamie Lee Curtis say that she didn't understand the movie until she was watching it.
Really?
And that Michelle Yeoh kind of felt the same way, where it's like, I get it and I know what we're doing, but one day I show up and I'm fighting my daughter dressed as a clown, and the other day I show up and she's wearing a jacket made out of teddy bears, and I'm kind of just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, honestly though,
And
because
then once they actually saw it, it really did hit them of like, oh fuck, that's what we were doing this whole time. Like, and I just think that's awesome as well, because we see this like method actor shit going around so often, right? It's like
it's
I wore my
exhausting,
shitty
honestly.
underwear for 6 days and I gave myself tobacco poisoning. Well, the movie fucking sucked.
And Dune swept your ass up.
And then we have movies like acting. Be like, you could just act and it'll be just as good. But
Mads Mikkelsen.
yeah, I think or like Robert Pattinson. It's like method acting is just an excuse to be an asshole. I never heard anyone method act and be like, he was so nice every day.
Yeah,
It's always
so
like, I
true.
became the worst person ever.
No, dude. I can't think of the last thing that I saw Jamie Lee Curtis in, because I didn't see she was in the Halloween Kills movie, right? So I really don't know. So honestly, it was refreshing to see her. Like, she really does just always kill it. But yeah,
I
no.
don't think she's in that much nowadays, right?
I don't think so.
She's getting the bag with Halloween.
Yeah, like I can't
Halloween
really think
brought
of
her back,
anything.
I think so, because I think what it might be is I grew up watching some of, like, I forgot what's the movie she's in with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, is it True Lies or whatever?
So what I was gonna say
don't
is
remember.
I
The
think
one where she's like doing the sexy dance.
yeah, but I was gonna say is like I
it's
feel
True
like
Lies.
throughout when she was around, besides Halloween, she was kind of known for her sexiness. Like, yes, she's always been a good actress, but she was really sexy before.
This is a callback to our Benedetta episode.
Why?
Because it was the James Cameron movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie
Yes,
Lee Curtis.
yes.
And he's like, they were like, I'll replace you with Paul
Yeah,
Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven. Yeah.
We'll really go there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's it.
Arnold, we are making a movie.
But then, like, I grew up watching her and stuff like Freaky Friday, you know? And she was already getting older, but even then I remember thinking, like, I don't see her much in anything else. So I just think she kind of aged out, which sucked because I never, like, her acting has always been, I thought, pretty good for, like, other roles that she's given. I always feel like she does a good job.
I do. I think overall this cast would be considered like underdogs, not because of the actors, but because of the roles themselves. So it's like the star of this movie is a 60-year-old woman, right? Like, and then you got Key, who hasn't acted in forever, right? And then Jamie Lee Curtis, like you're saying, she's probably sadly aged out of some things because it's like nobody's writing roles for women her age.
She's
really.
in Knives Out, guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's the last thing I
That's
saw her
true.
in.
But she's really good in that.
Yeah,
she
But
is.
before that, I felt like, just sorry to cut you off.
But I just, or like just the cast in general though, I feel like the people that are in this movie, it's like, oh my god, if you make movies about real people who actually exist, or that you know someone like this, how about that? It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
All right, and then we haven't even really brought it, but legendary James Hong.
James
obviously.
Doing his thing.
Yeah, each one of us could probably name like 5 movies that we've seen that he's in, and that other one of us hasn't seen. You know, he's 400 movie credentials. You said
Something like that.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, that's one a day and some. Like
That's
for
crazy.
a year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like imagine you went to one movie set a day.
he's
Crazy.
He's just legendary, and then that's the one of the things. Like such a legendary person like him in Hollywood. I don't know how much recognition he'll truly get towards the end, but the fact that he has so many credentials. I mean, come on.
Why is he not more appreciated?
Yeah, exactly.
Like how many actors have been alive? How many actors are still alive that have been in that many things?
And the humor that he's still able to bring
Yeah.
too. Like he's still so fucking funny, dude.
I mean, we were talking about some of the movies we've seen him in, and if you think about it, most of them are like joke roles.
Yeah.
Like Balls
Yeah.
of Fury,
Yeah.
or like Poe's dad
Kung
and
Fu
Kung
Panda.
Fu Panda, or like, I mean, I can't even think of the last time I saw him in a movie where he was prevalent or like getting the respect he deserved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, Roy brought up, oh yeah, he's in Blade Runner, and then he's also in
Big Trouble
Big Trouble in Little China, and it's like, when I think of him, that's actually the role I think of, because he's in so much stuff that he's not really in. It sounds wrong, but like important. He's not an important part of those.
It's not a
other
centerpiece
movies
of the
that he's
movie,
in.
yeah.
And he should be. Be like, dude, anyone who's been in this many movies, like, I think he's got some important things to say on how you make
Yes.
a fucking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's ridiculous.
I mean, I think in this movie too, like it's saying he'd take a back burner, but this movie does such a good job at giving everybody their time. They all have a special relationship with somebody, and he gets to show off his acting prowesses in this movie. And to think he's probably at least 80, right? You know, like because he
to be
looks
nice.
at
Yeah, he's
least.
probably
yeah,
at least 80.
that's what I'm saying. Like he looks really old, and he does a really good job. I mean, he ends up being like every other person here, 3 different versions of himself, and it's just so funny. And then he plays a very important role too.
You know, even the people who are like in the. This is getting a little spoilery here. I mean, the movie's been out a while now. Do you think we can spoil it?
I think we could talk about stuff freely, yeah. I
You know,
think
honestly, this is a movie. Even if I tell you everything that happened,
You
in
won't
it,
make sense.
It doesn't matter.
yeah, it really don't. Because there's 99 other things, you know what
And
I
I
mean?
think that is a sign of a good movie is when I could tell you the plot and I still haven't told you anything.
Like, yeah, you still have to see the movie to get the experience.
Yeah, because I mean,
Woman does her taxes.
I don't know if
that's
I don't know if this takes away my cinephile card or not, but I don't care if I know what happens in a movie before I go in because I'm like the details matter. You could tell me, oh yeah, he dies at the end. So okay, that sucks to know that. How? What happened? What was the inciting incident? I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
And even if you look it up on Wikipedia, the idiots who are writing that, they don't fucking do a good job of explaining it either.
no.
Like, most of the time, you can tell no one even proofread it. So
true.
I don't mind knowing those things, but where was I even going with this? What's
Spoilers. I don't remember.
Oh, what was
Yeah.
this? What was I? Oh no, did I?
James
lose it?
Hong.
No, you were talking about like all the other characters getting their opportunities to shine, I think. But
Oh no,
No?
this is getting dangerous. Someone take that mic away from me.
It was something about like you were talking about not knowing, or you don't care about knowing stuff before you go into the movie.
Yeah, but I can't even remember what I was gonna say now. Sorry, guys.
I do want to say, like, even like the super supporting roles, like with Jenny Slate being the big
Yeah.
nose girl, and
Oh.
like Biff Whiff in there and
Good
stuff
job.
like
You
that.
brought me back.
Brought it back.
Okay, so the
Jenny Slate.
in the Alphaverse, right? Mm-hmm. You see that that Ki Kwan's character is kind of got this like Ready Player One setup going,
He
where
really
he's
does,
in he's in an RV and
Yeah.
there's computers and it's like his multiverse hopping vehicle, right? Even the 2 people who are in there with him, they get a lot of shine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You never know their name or anything like that, but I feel like even they get to give a good performance. I mean, their total runtime in the movie is probably not even 7 minutes, but they get a chance to shine within those 7 minutes. And like what you're talking about, like Jenny Slate and Biff Whiff, and it's like, yeah, they're side characters too, but they also get moments to shine. And it's part of it has to do with the plot device of like once Michelle Yeoh unlocks her potential and chooses to fight a certain way, you realize that like all these characters had something laid out that helps her fight them, quote unquote.
Yeah.
once her true powers unlocked. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. It's
I
like
had to get that out.
I feel so much better now. Take a breath. Take a breath. No, but it is cool, and
That's
I
a
do
good
like.
point.
I mean, I kind of do want to talk about that at the ending, but just like how all these people have their own issues in their life, and like you can see, I'm sure if you guys seen it again watching the movie, like I've only seen it once, but they probably do lay those out in front of you to like kind of show you like these people have their issues, and at the end like you see like what really solves their problems and what brings all these people happiness, and it's because they get the chance to shine in the movie and have their moments of screen time and develop these super small roles that end up being important.
So I will say, like, Big Whiff, for example, because I know we're a big fan of him. Like,
I see one thing he was in.
and I love it. Like he kind of brings up in the beginning of the movie about the way Michelle Yeoh smells, and then at the end of the movie we see that plays a role until what you said, him finding his happiness, and Michelle Yeoh knowing, because she listened to him and was a good person to know what that is, and the fact that even Big Whiff gets his payoff in this, and one of the directors, which I have a hard time saying his last name,
Daniel Shiner.
Yeah, thank you. He's in the movie too, and I mean, even he gets this moment where I'm like, it is really funny, and then it pays off at the end. He ends up being like, one of the people she has to go through, and yeah, everybody gets their payoff here. The one other thing I did want to bring up was the guys who do the martial arts. They do a really good job here. I thought all this stuff with like the I guess you would call it like the bag that Key's character has.
The fanny pack.
Yeah. I thought the fanny pack stuff was really amazing. These guys, when I went to go watch it, one of them, they were there.
The Marshall Club, right?
The Marshall Club, yes. They're not trained in any specific way. They learned everything through watching Michelle Yeoh movies and Hong Kong movies. And honestly, Michelle Yeoh was saying that when she went to set and they were doing all of these things, preparing like how we're gonna fight, she's like, I recognize these moves, and those were all the moves that for the movies that she's been in.
That's really cool.
And it's just really cool because this kind of bounces back on how the Daniels work. Like, they've created a team that took 10 years of close friends that all know how to do things, and I guess I kind of really inspiring, at least in something like this, because we did just watch Doctor Strange, and there's so many things that you compare this movie that had millions and millions more in their budget, and you compare this
$175 million more at least.
Yeah. and just like for the martial arts stuff to be done by somebody who was not even trained in like a dojo or anything, and just by somebody that watched movies, like everybody who plays a big integral role in the cast and in the making of this movie is just big like lovers of movies.
Hey, well, in Doctor Strange, I think some of the things in those movies looked like they were made by people who weren't trained and not in the amateur cute way.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know Jenny Slate was gonna be. Did you brought her up? That she's gonna be Marcel.
Oh, Marcel.
I didn't know that was her voice.
Stay tuned for maybe a future episode.
I don't know.
Yeah, this whole. Well, I do want to talk more about the cast, but there is some behind the crew stuff that we need to talk about. There's a lot of rumors and a lot of hearsay about like how this movie was made, how it wasn't made. But one of the more interesting like anecdotes about this movie is that all the effects were done by 5 people, and I think it's including the 2 directors.
Damn.
So, and it was all done on Premiere, you said, or is it
Yeah.
After Effects?
Adobe Premiere.
Oh, like, and if anyone
That's psychotic
And
to think
after-
about.
if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, you've probably dabbled with something like that type of program, and you know how much of a pain in the ass it is. So to make a 2-hour and 20-minute movie with this many visual effects, I'm guessing there probably had to be somewhere around 3,000 to 5,000 effects in this
So
movie.
many effects.
I wish I could show you guys. Obviously, it'd be very hard, but there's a picture of what the timeline of the Adobe Premiere Pro, like the movie, looks like, and there's so many layers. It's ridiculous.
Like if you're old enough and you remember like big box square TVs, and when those would go haywire and have like the color blocks, probably like that, right? Like something
Yeah,
wild
exactly.
like that. Like, oh shit, my TV.
Constantly
I
fixing the
gotta-
rabbit ears.
it's just
I
like
gotta take off the screen and clean the inside.
blocks of color of just like, key lighting changes, effects here. Let's change. I mean, there's this really, really cool scene where Joe Butawaki, she's holding
Spoiler.
she's holding an object, and it starts changing into like literally everything you can think of. There was an Oscar in there. There's a sword. There's a whip, and just to think that 5 people did that, because you would assume that it would look really shitty or something, and I mean, it looks like a video game RNG, like it's changing all the time, but it just looks so realistic, and nothing ever makes it seem like, yeah, 5 people made this. It never makes it seem like that.
Like even like just thinking about it, like the montage towards the end of it, where it's just her flashing through all of her different, you know, selves, is like that's worth like a ticket, like straight up. Like that is incredible, honestly.
I will say, since we are talking about this, just to add to the lore of this, because there's just it's pretty amazing. The editor, his name's Paul Rogers. They edited it in real time. So as they were recording the movie, this guy was editing it, and they would watch it back and be like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. The film was shot in 38 days.
That's crazy.
So, and then it was edited. Everybody, the 5 people were editing it during COVID at their house. So they weren't even editing it together. The CGI screen that they use for a lot of Michelle Yeoh's, like when she gets taken into the closet, they literally use practical effects for it. And
I read this,
and that's like a big thing for them, is like where we can use practical effects, we will use practical effects, and then they would just use VFX to touch it up. But then they had her, like, a lot of times, like I think we've talked about it on here, the volume, the thing that the Mandalorian uses at Disney, like as a background. So they were talking about they had like a 99-cent version of that, and it's like as big as this wall, like a green screen, and just like a strip of those panels, and that's where they had Michelle Yeoh do a lot of the stuff. And
That's crazy.
Like Daniel Kwan was talking about, like he used like a pen-sized camera, and like he walked around New York, and then you could change the aperture on it, so then he made everything look blurry. So then he's like, that's what you see when she goes through universes. It's like him, just like, it was just footage of him walking through New York at night.
Super cool.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the craziest part is that they filmed this in an actual building.
Dude, I did see a lot of people talking shit that they're like, oh, this whole movie was filmed in an IRS building, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Did that bother you guys at all? Because
like
so much of it was shot.
I love it so much.
That's what I'm like. They made it work. Yeah, like I think that's really cool.
No, just to further on some of the things that Ro had brought up. So, the first time when Michelle Yeoh enters into the multiverse, that is done practically. So they, like he said, they put up their 99-cent version of the volume screens. It's all those panels, and they just pulled her in slow motion towards the closet and told her to react and express her
different faces
in slow motion, basically.
That's
So
really
like,
cool.
That's
really cool.
They just dragged her back, and that's how they did that shot. So, and they put a fan to make her hair blow.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's what I read about.
But isn't that crazy that you can do that, and that's probably so cheap? Like, honestly, us 3 could probably do that today.
Yeah.
That effect. I mean, obviously it wouldn't look as good, and I think that's where the crew and the filmmakers, you could see how talented they are. But anybody could do that. You know what I mean? You don't need $200 million to make that shot happen. But it's just so impressive to see what like somebody could do with like cheap tools, I guess. You know what I mean? It's like if you put Gordon Ramsay in a kitchen with a cheap knife and an oven that barely works. I bet you he's still gonna make something
do
fucking
something.
good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, what I loved is they talked about the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is like jumping at Michelle Yeoh and like through a staircase.
Wire work.
It's wire work, but it's also like the spot was real. They just walked by it and were like, this staircase works. Like that was it. Like, you know, and I know me and Gus used to go out and just shoot all the time, just stuff that we would see. And like, that's just something me and him could have just stumbled upon. Be like, all right, let's record a whole scene here. And I just think that maybe that's where I'm biased, where it comes like, that's why I like the movie. But the fact that it could get pulled off in such a simple way, and like, I would never think so. It doesn't give me that impression that it was just made so easily, or that it's just scouted on location. It just seems like you guys must have rented this whole building out or something. Like, no, they just did it on the spot.
I think we probably talked about it before, but I just think like any time that a director has the opportunity to use the practical effects over the CGI, like not only is it really cool because they save money and like you have to be creative about it, but it really just looks better. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just way more believable.
You can use the real thing, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It works so much better.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that it's weird that so many movies nowadays don't do that, because not only does it save you a bunch of money, but it looks better. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think I heard an argument a while ago that made a lot of sense to me. They're like, why does CGI... People think CGI looks worse now, even though it obviously doesn't. But it's like, I told Gus this as we walked out of Doctor Strange. Like, the first scene is like in this weird ass universe, right? And like everything is CGI. Be like, so I could already, like, my eye can already tell, like, this isn't real. But it's like when if you use practical and then touch it up with video effects, be like, that's when you make it real, because it's like my eye does see a tangibility in whatever it is. Like, we talked about like Lamb, you're shooting on a real location, so it's like I could feel that almost like through the film. But it's when you do everything CGI, it's when I think I personally you lose me, because it's like I do see it now, like you making the joke like this is cinematography, like you just set stuff up in different places. And like the Batman does does the mixture of that too, and that's when we brought up what we were talking about, like yes, they use the volume, but they also put like a real motorcycle in front of it, or their outfits aren't fake. And I think that's like a lot of the issues I have with the Marvel. It's like even their suits aren't real, like they're not even wearing an actual suit. And I think,
you mean to tell me Robert Downey Jr. is not wearing a 3,000-pound suit? No way.
But yeah, I mean, it's just such an impressive movie in that feat and how it got made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been meaning to bring this up in any episode, and I feel like this is a good one to bring it up in. What I was saying about how they feel like a real family. A big problem I have with movies is that characters are supposed to feel real, right? Or that or the house that they live in should feel lived in, right? And I think that in this movie, like the set design, the costume design, all of it feels very real. So like even the clothes they're wearing, I believe that she wears those shoes every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, and an instant is like, we've been seeing the Jurassic World trailer, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
they bring back Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, whatever her name is, right? Like, you're an archaeologist, and why do those clothes look brand fucking new?
Exactly.
Like, no dirt on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, so it's like, in this movie, it's like, the costumes they're wearing, I believe that Wayman wears that green shirt when he has to go somewhere nice. You know what I mean? Or like, you see them at home wearing their, like, their house shoes. And it's like, okay, that's believable. But they don't look brand fucking new. Like, they just made them for the movie. You know? Or, like, the house that they live in. It's messy in a way that houses are really messy.
Yeah.
It's not... oh, wouldn't it be funny if, like, I put that there? Or, like, put a pizza box on the table so you convey that they're a slob.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I
Like,
mean?
no,
It's
dude,
just,
like...
there's small things about this movie, and, well, I guess it's big things, but it's like, there's just so much detail that they committed to on every single little level for me.
That, like, what you said about, like, the house being lived in and making it, like, look... like realistically messy, like that's one of the first things I noticed, like the first time that you're in their house when she sits down to do the taxes, is I did feel this almost like anxiety. Like you almost feel the anxiety, like she's feeling like this is cluttered, this is a mess, like we have a lot going on. And it just really adds to it because like we were talking about, like a lot of these sets look like a fucking IKEA display. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just super unrealistic. And it's almost like the CGI just kind of takes you out of it. You know what I mean?
That did remind me of like
Fall collection IKEA.
Straight up though. Like the fuck is this? Like nobody's shit looks like this.
Piece of my soul.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh man. Wow, I lost what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I did forget what I was going to say.
Do you guys want to talk about the actual story? Because we've yet to do that.
Okay, yeah.
We can talk a little bit about it, yeah.
I will say one last thing about just how this got made that I did want to bring up was the cinematographer Shane Larkin. I did really like the whole aspect ratio change throughout the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like how whenever they were in the, I guess you would call it the main world, it was IMAX wide or regular screen, and then whenever she was in one of the other ones that she was traveling in, they would go back to widescreen. I thought that was really cool.
How would I know the movie's serious if it doesn't become anamorphic? Isn't that the indicator that the movie's becoming real? When it stops being a square,
Exactly.
it becomes a rectangle. Oh, man. So this movie is about a lady trying to do her taxes.
Mm-hmm.
On the surface. But... where do we even start with this?
That's what I'm saying.
Is this spoilers from here on out?
I would guess, yeah.
I mean, we're almost an hour in. I'm sure most people aren't even listening anymore. So we can probably just say whatever the hell we want.
We can say whatever the hell we want.
I say fuck it, mask off, and let's do spoilers.
Yeah,
from
let's
here
just
on
go,
out.
sure.
Okay, so Michelle Yeoh is... well, we get an opening scene of them being a happy little family singing karaoke or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's a cool mirror shot, which works every single time.
It does.
Of Michelle Yeoh doing her taxes, and you see her husband. Oh, Michelle Yeoh is Evelyn Kwan, right? And her husband Waymond, and her daughter Joy. Right? And Gong Gong. Can't forget Gong Gong.
Can't
the
forget
grandpa.
Gong Gong.
Once you start to see their everyday life start unraveling, which we talked about a little bit earlier, you could just smell the fucking stress and the anxiety coming off them. You know what I mean? And from that moment on, where do you... Sorry, the more I think about this movie, I feel like I have less to say because I'm like, fuck, I can't even believe
It's so
I saw
much.
that,
I mean,
right?
it really is. I mean, it's basically like you get introduced to her and her family, and you get a little bit of what's wrong in their lives. Like you see that Wayman wants a divorce, and you see that maybe she doesn't have a great relationship with her daughter, and you can already tell that she, for whatever reason, has to impress her dad. You know what I mean? Like there's all these little interesting dynamics, and
I think that's where when you guys talked about the setting, the room, the house being so messy, so like all the receipts everywhere, that's where the setting adds to that tension. You feel that way because you're claustrophobic in the setting. You're like, her life isn't obviously in line how she wants it. And the fact that he can't even get her to like even have like a one full sentence with her without her cutting it off, like, I need you to go help me with the noodles, or did you paint the top of the laundromat, and what paint did you use, you know? And like, she's already thinking 1,000 miles ahead, and he's just kind of like,
it's interesting to see the dynamic between them, because he's legitimately trying to present one of the most important decisions in their relationship that he's made, and she can't even give him the time of day, basically. You know what I mean?
Time.
Yeah. And then it kind of goes from there, and you see that they own the laundromat and all that, but I feel like things really kick off once they get to the IRS building, right?
Ooh, that fun place. Dude, where everything kicks
Yeah,
off.
exactly. It might as well be Disneyland, you know what I mean? But
that's where you get Deirdre.
yeah, Deirdre, that's played by
Deirdre Bobidra.
it's so fucking
Bobidra,
funny,
that's
dude.
Bobidra.
I love it. But played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And this is where you kind of see that you get another look into her life, that she has all these failed,
Aspirations.
life goals, you know what I mean? And you kind of see that she is the shell of maybe who she wanted to be, or who she thinks she should be. And it kind of this is where shit gets off the rails, and she basically gets sent into the multiverse, you know?
I like that even through the receipts, you could already get the little hint. They'd be like, karaoke machine. Oh, she's a singer. Sing for her, Evelyn.
Oh, yeah.
And, so funny. But then, like, later, obviously, we get into the multiverses, and she is a singer in one of them. So it's kind of like how you said, even the receipts or what she does at the laundromat, the little things that she does are all little signs of what she actually had dreams for. And the movie ends up manifesting that into...
Which that plays into one of my favorite, I guess, parts of the movie, or what this movie is trying to show, is that every single decision that you make leads to a different path. You know what I mean? And so who knows what those decisions were? Like, we don't know them yet, but it's really interesting to me.
I like the angle they take of the failed aspirations that you have, that those did happen in another reality. That's very interesting to me, because I feel like, and not to just talk about Marvel, but anything that does like a multiverse or a parallel universe or whatever, things are not really that much different, I feel like, in them. And in this one, you just see how many different life paths she could have really had, and how I guess we're not that I'm confused, but the idea of like, so even though she's not in the Alphaverse, right? Because the Alphaverse presents itself like it's the main universe, right? She's in a pocket universe, but she feels so much like a main character. I know that sounds obvious because she is the main character of this movie, but the idea that all these other multiverses kind of revolve around her specific universe and not the Alphaverse, I just found that
it's
really
very interesting. I also love in this scene, I don't know if it's this scene or after, but it's basically the same thing, is when Alpha Wayman, who's basically, guiding her through what's going to happen. And
for the next 30 minutes, it is basically this scene.
Yeah, it is. And he tells her, like, you're basically the chosen one because you are the worst version of yourself. Like, how soul crushing is that? To find out that you were like the worst version of yourself that you could have ever possibly been, but that also gives her the ability to do these things that she needs to do.
You're so bad at everything
that you
could
can be good at any.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like, it's just like, what? Like, it's just, this movie's just really interesting in like finding the positivity in whatever situation that you're in. Like, maybe you aren't this, world-renowned singer or all these other things that she is in all these other universes, but like, you have something really important here. Like, it's that's just what the movie's all about, I feel like. And I really like that aspect of it.
I think So we had talked about getting emotional in this movie,
Jesus.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the first time I got emotional every single time I've seen this movie is when she taps into the multiverse for the first time and she sees her whole life flash before her eyes. That for me just crushed me the first time I saw it. And I do think that's where like the visual flair really starts to happen in this movie, is obviously with all the multiverse stuff. But that sequence of her just seeing her whole life and how amazed she is and how like I feel like Michelle Yeoh feels in the movie, where it's like that overstimulated me. It felt like you just shot acid into my brain.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting there like with tears rolling down my eyes
Yeah,
and just with my eyes open like, what the fuck did I just see? And it was her entire, it was just her life. You know what I mean?
In an
But-
elevator ride. In half of an elevator ride.
Yeah, Wayman, he's like, wow, what a fast elevator.
Or when I even think about like her having that flashback, it even starts really funny because she's like, I'm sorry, it's a girl. Like,
Oh,
when-
yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh fuck, dude. Fuck from the get go. Like, damn,
Yeah.
damn.
Not to be, I feel like that's where the generational trauma starts in the movie.
100%.
Right? Because we see that she's trying to please her father her entire life from the moment she was born, basically. And that is a through line that continues
through the whole
through the whole
I'm happy that you brought that up because I thought it was really a really interesting part of the movie, like the generational trauma in which you see, and you end up finding out like everything that happened between Evelyn and Gong Gong, but then also how that has not been able to let Evelyn be as good of a mother to Joy as she can, because it's like she is accepting that she is a lesbian or bi or whatever she is in the movie, but it also is not totally wholehearted because she can't even admit that to her own father. So there is still walls between the different generations, and I think the movie does a really good job of tackling that. Because it's such a real thing that I feel like pretty much everybody can relate to, you know?
Yeah,
So
seriously. How many people have your grandfather's from a different generation?
Yeah.
Or, I understand, but my dad doesn't understand. And that, like you said, is just the most relatable thing that you could probably think of for people our age.
like, whatever you say, amigo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Like, literally.
That's an inside joke.
That's an inside joke. Fucking Gong Gong.
Oh, man.
But this is basically where we end up finding out that there's an evil person or entity or this Jobu, what is it?
Jobu
Tupaki.
Jobu Tupaki, Jojo Chewbacca. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you want to say, that is destroying these universes and is just absolutely like turning everything to nothing, basically. And for whatever reason, unbeknownst to us right now, Evelyn is the only person that can stop it, which is the driving force for the rest of the movie, I feel like.
Because the Evelyn in the Alpha universe got murdered.
She done got whacked.
Which she didn't understand because she's like, I'm a likable person. Why would anybody try to kill me?
So I want to talk about Waymond a little bit.
Okay.
He plays the most adorable father I've ever
Yep,
seen in
he
the movie.
is so
right?
sweet.
One of my favorite things he does in the very beginning is when you see him, Michelle Yeoh is talking, or Evelyn is talking to Joy, and you see the surveillance cameras they have, and Waymond is dancing with
Biff Whip.
Yeah. And they're like just dancing back and forth.
It's so funny.
And then you see Waymond turn for the first time. So he's the first one to turn. I guess which kind of confused me the first time because it doesn't seem like he has the
Headset on?
or anything. That
He
kind of
took
threw
the
me
glasses
off,
off.
right? Because it seems like Evelyn, she doesn't have. Well, in the beginning, she doesn't have the power to verse jump without her headset.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a plot hole or I'm just nitpicking, but it kind of seems like Wayman, it didn't matter if he had it or not. Like whenever it was convenient, he could jump between being Alpha Waymond and the regular universe.
And I
Waymond.
think, I don't know, that's interesting because like you think about it, Alpha
Good
Raymond
point.
is wearing all the headset stuff in his van. He does have all that on.
Yeah.
And he jumps to that body. But Evelyn has it on in her current universe, and when she goes to the other places, she doesn't have it
Oh,
on.
maybe that's what it is because that would make sense that there is an Alpha Wayman, so he gets to control the bodies of all the multiverses one.
Because like when
So
she
he tapped into
like,
him at that time.
when she jumps into her singing body, like the singing body doesn't have the ear things in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I understood that, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe even after all these times singing it, I'm still not.
Let's
what
go
you mean,
see
though.
it
I
I
again.
just feel
Yeah.
a little plot convenient that he
Yeah.
can just verse jump whenever.
I see
it's-
what you mean.
Whenever it's like convenient.
You have
for him.
questions as to why he was able to in the beginning. I mean, that you brought it up is a good question because I don't think I remember seeing a headpiece. I mean maybe there's to be pretty small,
he's
right?
dancing with Biff Whiff, and then 2 seconds later, he just turns into Alpha Waymond. I don't know. I honestly, it didn't hit me until yesterday that I was like, wait, that doesn't really make sense to me. But I don't care.
But it's hilarious because I did bring up that scene to you too. That I just thought it was hilarious.
It was funny.
It does cut back to when she looks at the screen and he's dancing again with Big Wig. He knows all the steps.
It's so
It's like
funny.
he wanted to be an actor too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we could get off of him because I do think we just have to say it now so we can get it off of our chest finally that the antagonist, villain / I'm not really a villain, I'm just misunderstood.
I'm just sad.
Is Joy.
Yeah.
So that is the big reveal in this movie is that
It's Alpha
Evelyn
Joy.
created this evil in another universe.
She pushed her too far.
Yeah, and I feel like all of us understand that feeling, whether you're young and you think your parents did it to you, and I'm sure your parents feel the exact same way about their parents too. That we've all been pushed to this point of like feeling like your parents broke you, and that's an awful feeling, but it doesn't really feel like malicious or like with evil intent. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that we realize later on is that Jobu Tapaki / Joy, it's not that she was trying to find an Evelyn that she could kill so that this would all be over. She was trying to find a mom that
she could
understood
relate
her
to,
in
yeah.
all these different universes. And like, I don't know, maybe if you don't like this movie, that sounds corny or not, but I just thought that was so heartbreaking that you become this fucking godlike being and all you're looking for is someone to understand.
Yeah, and that's where the nihilism is first really introduced in this movie. I think is the fact that like she's exposed to all of her different realities all the time, and she just kind of comes to the conclusion that nothing does matter, and that there's no point to anything. And instead of you can go two ways with that. Like you can just sit there and be a rock, or you can like go do something. You know what I mean?
I will say her introduction into the movie as a villain is one of my favorite things in the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is the great Jobu Tupaki. We don't know who it is at this point. Kind of looks like a cool witch. Her nails are changing colors
That
as
was really
she's
cool.
grinding them through the office. And then it kind of like it does give Heavy the Mask vibes, just in terms
I
of.
heard the directors say that themselves. Like they thought of her as like a mask-like character.
Because it's
She
like,
is pretty absurd.
she's
you know what I mean?
almost as goofy as she is dangerous, was the way that I took it, and we see that she grabs one of the Evelyns in this verse that died, and she holds her, and she again sees like her whole life flash before her, and then she just like throws up and like dies, and she's like, "Hey, buddy, don't die on me," and I thought it was cool when she figured out that, the Evelyn I'm looking for is another one. That she kind of just moves her finger left to right and just kind of flickers through the verses. Like, stuff like that, I was like, wow, this does not look like it was made on After Effects. Like, you just got the timing down so perfect. How many times did you have to go record somewhere different and make sure that her back matched up exactly so you could use that shot for half a second? That's the thing is you're almost recording. There's so many things in this movie that are like could be other movies and they're only shown for half a second.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, man. I mean,
This movie, dude, I feel like I have so much to say, but that I don't even know how much more I could say without spoiling the movie. Really, I mean, even though we are doing that now, but like. This to me has been the hardest movie that we've talked about so far because there's just so fucking much going on that I feel like the pod could literally just evolve into like, and then I really liked this part, and then this part was so sick, and then this part is so cool. Because when I saw my wife yesterday, I literally did that for like 45 minutes.
Like, oh, that's nice.
I was like, that was
That's
so
nice.
funny. And then I was like, no, but you know what else was so funny? I thought that was hilarious. So I do think we should get close to wrapping this up, and I don't care. I think for these last like 5-10 minutes, it should just evolve into that because that's where my head is at right now. All I'm thinking about is how many things in this movie I just thought were hilarious or really liked.
yeah, I will say, I guess starting because this kind of goes back to what you said, like people who don't like it. But this works for me.
Fuck
The
'em.
humor, the hot dog fingers
That's
thing,
just
like,
hilarious.
it just works for me. Like I understand it's stupid, but it just works for me so well. But then the fact that how they end up taking the emotion from that, and I think I said it before a podcast that they for every version of these people they had like inspiration,
Like a movie.
movie, yeah. And then so obviously we have the Evelyn that never met Key. So then they're both really like rich and like that's a Wong Kar-wai movie. That's like In the Mood for Love. And then the Hot Dog universe is actually taken from Carol, which I haven't seen. That's that movie
I
with
know what it is. It's Rooney Mara, right?
yeah, with Rooney Mara. I'm not too sure what that's on. And the Rock universe, which you kind of we haven't talked about it yet, but I didn't want to bring it up because you kind of talked about those people at your viewing. They were having kind of like an issue with it.
Yesterday at my viewing, there was a group of people who just totally missed the ball on what that scene was about because they were laughing uncontrollably hard. And it made me think, it took me out of the movie for a second because I kind of thought, I'm like, damn, I hope no one ever tells you anything that means a lot to them.
Yeah,
you're
just gonna laugh at it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that dude, like that's the scene that I wanted to bring up was the Rock scene. I mean, that like was it was a lot. Like I was bawling at that point. Like I really was.
That's when you're talking about the themes of nihilism. That's when it takes it like it did feel like a National Geographic. It shoved it in my face that like we think we're so smart. It got really real all of a sudden because it was a world where it was quiet. It just used the captions just worked so well. And what I find interesting about that is that I've watched this like 5 times in theaters. The first time I watched it, the audience was not like what you were saying because it was an audience of like people came here to watch this movie and they understand what an A24 movie is and they understand. But like all of them were dead silent when that scene was on. Like because everybody was fucking crying.
Yeah.
But then when I went to go watch it at AMC, like people were laughing when it says ha 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 ha. But I remember at that point when I first watched it, like I had that feeling in my throat, like oh my god, like this is getting to me. But it's just really interesting how seeing stuff differently, like because it does say ha 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 on there. I guess it could be seen as something that's comedic or how Gus said, like somebody be like, they're using the rocks again, but like they think this is working, but like it does work. I kind of can't understand how you don't get the point of the scene. It's really interesting to me, but yeah, like that is one of where their corniness took a very serious turn, and I'm like, I don't really understand how this doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
You know?
My wife said when we left, she's like, well, they must have had an easy life. She's like, someone's never been through any real shit.
Yeah,
like,
right?
I mean, I felt like that was a bit aggressive, but I did understand her point where it's like, damn, maybe you just see life in a whole different way where it's like, you're seeing this sequence and you're thinking of it like it's supposed to be funny, and it's like, yeah, it is, but it's funny in the way when you're crying and someone makes a joke and then it's like,
exactly.
oh man, and then you just start laughing or whatever.
It's like when you just have a total fucking meltdown and then you know something funny happens. You're like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I saw that scene. I didn't see it like that. That was supposed to be like that was the funniest part.
No, I mean, because like literally, like I mean, no pun intended, but like that's their rock bottom, basically. Like you know what I mean? Like that's the finality of nothing.
Damn, bro, you never wanted to feel like a rock before.
That's when,
Yeah, exactly.
That's when Evelyn or Jobu shows Evelyn that here's the bagel with everything. You know what I realized, and none of it matters. And so then they're already kind of sitting there, like Evelyn has come to grips that like, oh shit, she did show me everything, and everything doesn't matter. But is that a reason to be like her? Like, no. Like, and then I think that's what I really enjoyed about this movie was that Key's character is like, he's so integral to the other side of what you were talking about in the beginning of like having hope. Like, there's this scene where he talks about like, you think you're a soldier. He's like, I'm a soldier too.
I love that part.
Again, that's like one of the things I'm talking about. Like,
It's
damn,
in the mood for love averse.
yeah, exactly. And he ends up saying, I have the quote right here. It's like, empathy is not foolish and it does not mean agreement. Empathy is strategic and necessary. Is a quote where they actually like that's the quote that they read and was like, this is what the character of Key is. And he ends up saying that like, I'm strategic. Me being hopeful isn't me just being dumb. It's me being strategic. It's my way to fight. And all of those little like that whole like speech is just, when I was hearing it the first time, like, wow, like you're saying, like it just hits so strong. And I for him to deliver it like that, like also just showed like his acting prowess is like, and it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Definitely that speech.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this on the pod before, and I can't remember what movie it was for now, but that it's like, yeah, okay, the world sucks or all this horrible shit's going on in all of our lives, right? But it's like you could still choose to be happy, or not in that way of like you're fixed, everything's perfect, but you can have that outlook on life of like, just because things are bad doesn't mean they're always going to be bad. Or I think one of the things that people take for granted the most, and Ro and I were talking about this movie the other day, and I had brought this up, that it's like you don't realize how much you have. And even when you look at other people who are beneath you, it's almost like an entitlement of like, yeah, but I shouldn't be like that either, you know, instead of just appreciating what you actually have. And I think that that's what Ki Kwan's character is for, is to kind of bring Michelle Yeoh and Stephanie Sue back to reality of like, yeah, we might not have everything, but we have enough, like us being a family. And as stupid as it sounds, it's like, yeah, when I see movies like this, it makes me more appreciative of my life.
Yeah.
And because I've seen it in this movie and I've seen it in plenty of other movies, and it's like, oh, well, it's just a movie. You take advice from that. But it's like, yeah, I do, though, because when people have the chance to create a piece of art and say something, and that's what they're saying with their time, that's an important thing,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, maybe it's corny to some people, but to me, it's not.
No.
And I don't know. I thought that, like, I was glad you brought it up because that's where I was going next, is that Ki Kwan is the key to making this, no pun intended,
Yeah.
but he is the key to keeping this whole thing together.
He's the glue.
Because he is the turning point. Like, once Evelyn unlocks her full potential, she chooses, like, I'm not going to be like Jobu. I'm going to be like Waymond, and I'm going to fight his way, which is like with kindness and having faith and being hopeful in the universe.
Because it does seem for a bit, just like every movie, that Jobu, our antagonist, is cracking to the protagonist, and she's going to side with her.
You have to
And-
make a good point as a villain. If you don't, then it's like,
exactly.
I'm just evil.
Yeah.
And that's how you know it's a good, thorough character. But she's starting to side with her. We see her. They're going to take the laundromat from them. She signs the divorce papers. She's completely ready. Nothing matters. So why not just give it all up? But then Key starts talking to Jamie Lee Curtis. All he does is talk to her, and he's like, look, we're going through a hard time. Just talks. Somehow gets out of it. Joe Butabaki's character be like, just a statistical, I forgot what she says, be like, don't get your hopes up. But it's like his faith of like, I just talked to her. That's what he ends up saying. Like, him being so positive is making those moments for their life where it's like, it changes the course of it, because you're almost doing something that was thought as impossible by Jobu because they don't have what you have, Key. And I just really enjoyed how that movie used such, like, what somebody could think is very corny, like Gus is saying, but it's almost using it like, you don't understand the power of being a nice person, or like how far it really goes to just be hopeful, to not be the bad person, to be like the cup is half full, not half empty.
Yeah. That's a really good point. No, I mean, like, that's why I really do love the character of Waymond, is just because, like, I know even, like, personally, like, when something bad happens, for whatever reason, like, I tend to focus on it a lot more than the good things that happen. Like, one shitty thing happens in the day, there could be 10 other good things that happen, and for whatever reason, at the end of the day, I'm going to just be thinking about that negative shitty thing. And that's why you do need these people that really do see the good in everything, and they go to bed thinking about those 10 positive things that happened. And, like, that's really hard to do, and, like, a conscious decision that you need to make. But I think that's what the movie is trying to say, is make those decisions and be aware of what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, be more like that. And that's what Evelyn ends up doing.
Shit. How many situations does it make it worse that you were a good person
No,
or
none.
nice, right? I can't
Never.
really think of many. I mean, I'm sure there's a statistical anomaly out there where
Right.
being nice was the wrong thing to do. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, dude, just live with some fucking grace and be nice to people. You know what I mean? I don't understand, like, why that's so hard for some people to fucking understand. I really just don't get it.
Don't laugh at the rocks.
Yeah.
Don't fucking laugh at the rocks.
Yeah.
fucking pieces of
Don't
shit.
laugh at the rocks.
This is supposed to be making you feel like a smaller piece of shit.
Another thing I did want to bring up that I know all three of us really like, everybody really likes this about this movie, is Raccacoonie. Can't do the whole podcast without bringing up Raccacoonie. I don't even want to talk too much about what it is, just because I was like, I hope that if we change your mind and go watch this movie, that you experience this moment, it being revealed. Gus caught onto it pretty fast the first time he watched it, because he's like, the guy
With my
has the
keen
fucking...
cinephile
I saw it
eyes.
too.
He has
Yeah.
a raccoon tail. Like,
Yeah.
my brother didn't catch it, but...
Like Davy Crockett. Yeah.
I did read that part was actually inspired by 90s PTA, which is a Magnolia type of like feel to the story, because it's like
Okay.
Raccoon's character. I haven't seen Magnolia, so I don't know, but is it because Magnolia has like a character that technically is very niche, and they make it matter? Because that's the kind of what they were saying. Like, it's like, well, Raccoon's like, it's a joke, but to the guy, it means a lot. Like, that's his life. So that's like, you're making something serious out of something that's stupid. Kind of like Boogie Nights. Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's a porn star. Be like, but I mean, that's what they said. Like, that's where they draw inspiration from.
Just
but
say it's Ratatouille. dude.
I
That's
honestly
really good.
kind of don't really see the correlation between that and Magnolia. There are some like totally like random absurd things that happen in that movie where you're just like, wait, what? So maybe that's what it
I
is,
haven't
but
seen
I'm
it, so
not sure.
I don't I would have to go back to see what their connection was, but they said 90s PTA
That's
slash
the one
Magnolia.
that feels off of all their comparisons to like what they were trying to do. I don't.
So I've seen that movie recently, and I'm just like I said, there's some random shit that happened. So maybe in that,
Yeah,
and
like,
it
I
just
think
like
that's what
ends
we're
up
doing.
meaning something. But I'm
What do
not
raining
sure.
frogs have to do with
Yeah, no,
raccoon tails in the back of
exactly,
someone's
like,
head,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
No, I wanted to bring this up earlier since we're just talking about since we're just gushing. I
Yeah.
can't believe we didn't start this pod by saying that this was just going to be us rambling about how much we
Throwing
like
up about this movie. Yeah.
No criticism here.
No
nothing.
criticism,
Like, this
yeah,
is literally
none.
just like, oh man, I love this movie. Is that the Wayman's fanny pack fight?
That shit's hilarious.
That because it's an indie movie and because it's on such a tight, like a tight scale, they only had 3 tries to do the whole scene, and he didn't get it right until the 3rd try.
Damn.
And it was because he knew it was like, if I don't do this now, we're just gonna have to move on, and then that's not gonna be in the movie, and it feels like a total waste because I trained to do this, and like the Marshall Club, like they're ready to do this, like we have to get this right, and he got it right on the 3rd try.
Thank God.
Because he said he looked over at the directors and he saw them panicking, like, oh fuck,
like, I gotta
this
do
might
this.
not be in the movie, and this is like one of the big selling points of this movie is
Martial
that
arts.
fight.
Yeah.
And just for him to come through and get that, it's like, ooh, clutch God.
Yeah,
It's like,
for
because
real. I didn't know
really
that.
Is so fucking sick.
That's a
dude.
great scene. Yeah.
Like that. I mean, I tend to not watch too many movies that I think have like choreographed fight scenes in
Yeah.
them. I don't know. I guess it's just not really my bag. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but it's not something I seek out where I'm like, dude, this movie's got to have some sick choreography.
Is the last one
in it.
that's like that you think they really stood out to you? That part is like Malignant.
Oh, Malignant.
I rewatched that
Malignant
recently.
fuck.
Is that I know it's very choreography driven. Like I've seen one of the fights on there. It's very choreography driven.
Yes, I guess so. That's probably the last time I watched a movie that had a sequence that was that cool.
Like that stood out. That aspect was like that stood out to you. That's what I wanted to get.
Yeah,
at.
but it's not something I'm like huge on. But dude, it's so fucking sick, and it just goes to show you where I'm like, why this whole movie made me think like, why don't other directors who have so much more money care this much about what they're making? Because it's like, other than like John Wick or like international movies, I'm sure they care. I'm like, I'm not seeing anything like this today. And that to me blows my mind that like Ki Kwan's probably in his like 50s or 60s, and he's probably gonna have the best fight scene of the entire year.
Yeah.
And it's not even, and it's obviously so inspired by like, okay, of course Michelle Yeoh, but the movement is like, dude, that's Jackie Chan
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there, like
It
kicking
is.
furniture.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
grab a pile, a pebble,
Rocks.
a bunch of pebbles and use them, or just like even the fanny pack itself, like how ridiculous it gets with that. It's like, dude, he hits you with the fanny pack and you go flying over 2 cubicles.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what
so
I mean?
good.
Like,
So
that's what
good.
had me laughing. Is like, okay, yes, it's funny that he's using a fanny pack, but how absurd is it that the guy went flying
You got
past
right.
2
Yeah.
cubicles,
No,
right?
That's so funny.
There's a lot of stuff like that too. When she's fighting Big Nose, she uses the dog as like a like a whip. It's so hilarious.
She's whipping the dog around.
And
Dude,
that's when she
was
first taps
dying.
into the chef universe, because then she grabs the spatula and like I forgot what she uses to cut it. She kind of makes scissors and she cuts into the dog, goes fucking
Dude,
flying.
that's
like,
so fucking funny.
It's so weird because the thing she's using is like a cake spatula and a spoon.
Again, a wooden spoon. It's like she made like a
wooden.
whip. Yeah, man. I mean, I did want to bring up. Actually, I had forgotten about Key because it had been a while since he had acted, and I had come across him in an interview talking about that he got really jealous when he saw Crazy Rich Asians and was like, wow, like I could have been there. Like because he said it's not that he really retired because he wanted to. He was like, they just never called me anymore. Like. And then that's when Jamie Lee Curtis talking about, like, yeah, at a time when they wouldn't, like, you were aged out. She's like at 16, like they didn't want teenage Asian guys anymore.
Yeah, he said by 20 he was no longer being offered any roles because it was just like, what?
crazy.
Why would you be in this?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like, what the
So
fuck? Why not?
disrespectful, yeah.
And then
right.
he said he started working behind the camera more. Like he just kind of, I don't know if he directed his own stuff, but he was doing a lot of like on camera work. And then he saw Crazy Rich Asians and he got really jealous. He was like, I should have been in that. Like, I can't believe I'm not like out there. They didn't. And then he went to go get an agent, he said. And the agent, like it was an old friend of his. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And then with 3 months, this was the first script he got.
Yeah. Since you had brought up Crazy Rich Asians, I wanted to say it was like there's a lot of connections. It's like Michelle Yeoh's in that movie. The guy who plays Raccoon's Avatar. He was in Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh,
You know what
okay.
I mean? And he doesn't get a big role in this movie, but I thought he got a chance to shine with that stuff. He's like, raccoon.
That's just hilarious.
I thought the funniest thing, he's like, I'm useless without him. I didn't even know how to boil an egg. And yeah, so like what Ro was saying is that like that was his call back to acting, right? And then another interesting thing I thought was that, you know, he plays, there's the In the Mood for Love universe, right?
Yeah, that's what another note today.
And he's basically playing like Tony Leung's character in that movie, right? But Ki Kwan, once he went, like after he stopped acting, he went to film school, and then he started working in Hong Kong and China and stuff like that. He started working with Wong Kar-wai on those. Well, he didn't work on In the Mood for Love, but he worked with the director. So it's like for him, it was a full circle.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it seems like there's a lot of full circle stuff in this movie, which is really cool.
So he's like, I wanted to be like in a Wong Kar-wai movie because I worked with him for so long, and I got to see the roles that these actors were getting, and I just thought I wanted to do that. And he's like, and now I got my chance to be in a version of that movie, and like for him,
fucking killed
I just
it.
love his role, his story revolving this movie. Like it just makes me so happy and hopeful for people like him because, like, dude, I don't know if it's like if it's blasphemous to say this, but like he's my favorite performance in the movie.
I really like
And
him.
I know it's supposed to be Michelle Yeoh, and I'm not saying that she's lower than him in this, but I just fucking love the
him.
character of Waymond and like all of his versions as well. And I mean, how could you not love Michelle Yeoh? It's not even a 1A, 1B. It's like two 1As.
What I think
personally, like, I hope, you know, I'm going to be a dad soon. It's like, I hope I'm like Waymond. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say what's crazy about him, like that you would think that he was in, like, because he had his fame as a kid, that you was like, oh, he must have been in whatever movies as a kid too.
He's
And
in
he like
the
two of the biggest
movies.
ones. Dude, like I just
Dude, he's worked with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas on Indiana Jones, right? He worked with, was it Robert Zemeckis did the Goonies?
Goonies,
Yeah.
Right? And then he worked with Wong Kar-wai. Be like, dude. And now he's working with Daniels. And it's like, it's just, I mean, his peak when he was a kid, it was like the highest peak you could possibly go. So it's like, he really has seen the ups and downs of what your career could become.
Shirley Temple days.
I will say that. Shirley Temple days. But he had a creative process of 3-month prep. And so what he did was he got 3 coaches. He got an acting coach, a dialogue coach, and a body movement coach, because he said he was aware that there's 3 versions of this character. All 3 of them are going to walk differently. All 3 of them are going to talk differently. All 3 of them are going to have different confidence. So what I found really interesting was that the body movement coach had him look up videos of animals to kind of give him like, okay, this is the type of animal that this Wayman is. And so like Alpha Wayman is an eagle because he's like a leader, you know, and Rich Wayman, the one from the Wong Kar-wai universe, is like a fox. So, you know, it's just kind of like just the way that he presents himself. But regular Wayman is a squirrel.
Wow.
And I think it was really funny because it's like that makes so much sense. Like in the scene where he's like he gets put behind like the stuff that you put files in, and he can't move it. He's like, "What a weak body!" But then when he changes back to the Wayman that's a squirrel, he's like, his voice goes higher, and he's like, "Hey, help me!" And it's just like again, kind of what we're tying in. Like, I cannot believe he spent so many years where nobody would really give him a chance. And in one role in this movie, he does 3 characters in one. You know, and just how Gus said it, like it's so hard to not appreciate his role in this movie because in the story he plays such an integral part too.
I almost kind of feel like the movie is like his real life is kind of like the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's like the early part of his life must have felt like a dream. And the older he got, just like, I did that really happen to
Crash
me?
back to reality.
You know what I mean? Like, was I really in Indiana Jones? Was I really in the Goonies? Like, and then to grow up and all those years of just kind of being a regular person again. And then for him to be where he is now, it's like where I hope he's in a shit ton of stuff.
I would love to see him in some
because
stuff.
he really does have that movie star quality of where like he lights up the screen, and so does Michelle Yeoh. I mean, everybody in this movie does, honestly. But just Ke Kwan's performance, like I can't say it enough. I'm pretty sure in the hour and a half we've been recording, I said that like 5 times already.
Probably.
But it's so good. Like I think honestly he's probably one of my favorite movie characters of all time. All 3 versions.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny that you said that because I had it written down that the movie is very meta narrative. Like it's about untapped potential, and you have Michelle Yeoh and Keith doing it, and it's like both of them have been done a disservice where they haven't been given opportunity to show off their potential, like only slight bits of it, and the slight bits that we have gotten at it were really good, so it never made sense why they weren't given the full range to actually lead a movie. And it's just really funny how the movie is meta on that even the people that they picked for it are all, like you said, this cast feels like a family, and all of them feel like untapped potential, especially with like Gong Gong. Like you have somebody who we talked about has years and 400 writing credentials and doesn't even seem like he gets respected. And this movie is just amazing in that way. It's so meta, and it does it so well. You know, like you said, we could go on, keep gushing and gushing about this film because there's just so many aspects that I know each one of us walked out be like, this movie for me at least, and I think I'm speaking for both of you guys, would be really hard for another movie this year to be better than it.
No, this jumps to the top.
It's
like,
gonna be-
Northman and the Batman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my friendship is over with.
I
you. I
know.
only care about this one.
Because like how Gus said, like to me, like as soon as I watched it I felt this way the first time, but I do like watching stuff when I make such a harsh decision like this. But this cracked my top 10 movies ever. Like I do love this movie. This movie to me is like a perfect movie, and like you said it too, Gus. Like I have nothing bad to say about this movie. Nothing that I'm like I hated this part or this doesn't make sense to me. Nothing. Like I could have. And Nate, we didn't watch it with Nate, but Nate texted us after we watched it. I could have been in there for another hour, and like I did feel that way. It was just there was so much. It was such a well-made movie. I was having such a great time. The acting was top-notch. Cinematography kept blowing me away. The colors kept blowing me away. I can't stop talking about it.
The last thing I really want to say about the movie, because like just like with Nate saying he could watch the movie for another hour, I could probably talk about this movie for another hour, just being like, this was cool, that was cool. But my favorite scene I think in the entire movie is either Michelle Yeoh seeing her whole life go before her. So there's 3. There's that one, and then the scene where she taps into her singer universe, and
that's nice.
It's like you see her singing like that classical like Chinese song, and like the vocals in that are just like amazing. Like that made me emotional, like the singing itself, right? And then like the slow motion and her doing the fight, and like that scene got me emotional, not because I thought it really was like pulling on my heartstrings. I just thought, like when I watch a good trailer and it makes me emotional, where I'm like, dude, this is everything I love about movies.
Yeah.
And it was that scene, you know? So like that really got me. And then like in the Mood for Love verse, where Wayman is telling her like, in another universe, I would have loved to just do laundry and
Dude,
taxes.
oh my fucking god.
I'm a total simp. Like I've been married for a long time. I've been dating my wife for 10 years. So like, not to get too personal here, but like so much of that movie mirrors my real life. You know what I mean? So like because like as stupid as it sounds, movies have made me more appreciative of my life. I do think about that every day. You know what I mean? Like the first 2 times I saw this movie without her, when I got home, I was happy to see, not that I'm not any other time, but you know what I mean? Just like that, that affirmation of like, this is right. Like me and you and our baby that's on the way. It's like, that is life, and that's all I fucking need.
The appreciation was there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a full-on like recharge.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I don't know. Not this movie made me feel like I was living my life the right way, but I'm just like, okay. People write stories where the happy ending is what I have. You know what I mean?
You could
it's
be
like,
like,
it just makes me so happy to see that.
Yeah.
but you could place yourself as Michelle Yeoh and how she was content at the end. And be like, I guess he threw it in my face that I was the most untapped potential here, but here is where I'm happy with my family. So my worst is still better than a lot of people's best. And that's kind of what you were talking about, and appreciating. We sometimes take things for granted. And a movie that's about an Asian culture multiverse to make you feel like that as us as Latinos. Like that's how I knew too. Be like this movie. Yes, Asian culture is very strict, but there were so many things on there where I was like, my mom and my dad have made me feel this way too. About like you're supposed to do this and supposed to do that, and you don't do it, and all of a sudden they think like she tells her like like you're getting fat. She thinks being mean is being like that's gonna caring. Like that's not like that's not how things work. And yeah, I mean this movie, it's very hard for me to not see where like I think anybody can place themselves somewhere in this. Like if you're a dad who would like don't think you have too much of a strong connection with your daughter. Like there's that whole relationship with Gong Gong, and there's even like struggling with being a lesbian and trying to get that to your mom. And even she has pretty good moments in the movie. The girlfriend of
Becky.
Yeah,
Shout out Becky. You've yet to mention her.
Yeah,
She was like the smallest role out of everyone, honestly.
Yeah.
But she does give a good performance. But yeah, this movie is just so relevant.
It really
to
is.
everybody.
I think my closing thoughts on it probably is like, I mean, like when I got out of the theater, like I legitimately just sat in my car for a second and it was just like, wow. Like I said, like it felt like a recharge. Like it really, like I just really thought this movie was so beautiful in a way that a lot of movies just kind of shy away from. Where like movies are always about being this big hero and being this thing that nobody else is, when in reality, like that's super unrealistic. You know what I mean? And I think it just kind of like, it just hits home so well. Like you think about it as a kid, like I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a football player and do all this. Like now at this point in my life, like I do just want to have somebody and have a family and like to live that life. You know what I mean? And like, it really just hit home a lot. And I really like the way that it handled, like purpose basically, because I think people are always out there like searching for a purpose and like, oh, what's calling me? But in reality, it's like you make your own purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you have to be, happy with the decisions that you make and the path that you take. And I just really think that this movie is super beautiful. And like, if you're going through a tough time, like honestly, like go see this movie. Like this is, like you guys said it, this movie cracked my top 10. I've seen it one time, and just it's incredible, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think this movie reaffirms like life for some people, where it's like it really follows that hero's journey like to a T more than anybody else, because when it ends, nothing has changed. It's just she went through this big, huge journey just to get that affirmation that her life isn't
gonna
really
be
as
okay.
bad as she thinks it is.
It's gonna be okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, we could keep going, but I think it's time to stop.
Yeah.
I did want to bring up one really interesting thing.
No.
They had answered I think they premiered this at South by Southwest. So they had a Q&A after I was watching it, and they asked them, the person that was saying this, like, I absolutely love this movie, had the same love and lush that we have for it, and was like, I'm just curious, what didn't make it into the movie? What's in the cutting room? Like, what is the insane stuff that was too much? And they shared a 2-minute sequence that they cut, which I thought was really interesting. They called it was Spaghetti Baby Noodle Boy was the name of this 2-minute sequence. And what it was a 2-minute scene left on the cutting room, a universe where talking macaroni doesn't understand why he's not a spaghetti, and his mom has to explain to him that he's a macaroni, and it's voiced by Jenny Slate. Not being able to find how it fit in the film, it's going to be on the Blu-ray release.
That's cool.
They tried it for like the ones like when the first
That
cut.
really does sound awful.
Yeah, that's really
Because it was in the original cut, and I agree too, because it's kind of like, well, what does that have to do with Evelyn or Jobu or any of them? This would have been the only scene where it's Jenny Slate just being a macaroni. So I agree that it being cut off, but I just thought it was funnily, and like, yeah, this kind of reflects to what you were saying. Like, a couple steps off, and this would have been terrible. This could have been like, your message was not delivered because you decided to be too corny on the hot dog stuff, or too corny on why a macaroni isn't a spaghetti. But
That is truly dumb.
like, they ended up figuring it out, obviously, and I just thought that was interesting. And I wonder what else the fuck they didn't actually use.
So Spaghetti Noodle Boy. That's
Spaghetti
how we're
Noodle
ending
Boy.
this, huh?
It's a
Spaghetti
perfect
Noodle
movie.
Boy.
Go see it.
All right. Yeah. I think you said it, Nate. I think that all three of us probably think that this is a 5-star.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about stars?
It's perfect.
But yeah, it's an amazing movie. If you don't like this movie, I don't care.
Go see a therapist. You should probably go see a therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
You need a therapist.
It's not like I'm about to judge you if you don't like this movie, but I just literally do not care if you don't like this. So yeah, I mean,
The best, yeah.
like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Do what you got to do, or don't, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I hope you enjoyed us talking about this movie as much as we enjoyed watching this
Yeah,
movie.
for real.
And if you haven't seen this yet and you made it this far, you're a sick fuck.
I know.
But, I'm also a sicko, so I understand. But go see this. Take your mom, take your grandpa, take your grandma.
It's Mother's Day this weekend.
Yep.
Just take people to see this movie. And if I would really say, yeah, do take your family to see this, because maybe it'll help you guys connect in a way you didn't think you would, because I thought I saw this movie from Joy's perspective and
Michelle Yeoh.
Evelyn and Wayman. You know what I mean? The only perspective I didn't see this from was the grandpa because I'm not there yet.
Gong.
I felt the full gamut. You know what I mean? And I felt everything that you could feel watching a movie. And Nate probably knows this quote because he's a sports guy. But the Jimmy V quote of like, if you laugh, if you cry, if you think you had a full day. Like that's how I felt watching this movie. I'm like, I laughed, I thought, I cried. Like that was a full fucking movie.
Haven't stopped thinking about it, honestly.
Exactly. I know. I was just as excited to see this yesterday as I was the first time. I think I was more excited because I knew I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite things to watch.
This is gonna
And
be
you're gonna show it
fucking
to
good.
somebody, you know.
Yeah.
This is a movie I really want to show people.
Yeah,
It
everybody.
really is.
And I think I even felt that way because I know that you always promote the pod, but you watched that movie and you were like, I'm going to make a post on my story. Like, everybody needs to go fucking watch this movie. And I think Gus brought this up in the beginning, and that's like my last words is that this movie did come out of nowhere. I didn't think it was going to be this good.
No way.
Like that I definitely would have nothing bad to say about it. I cannot wait to have this in streaming. I think this is going to be like when I would come over and Gus would sometimes have The Big Lebowski playing, and then it just bled into my life. Sometimes I just played The Big Lebowski whenever I'm having a somewhat shitty day. Always cheers me up. This movie is going to be that movie as soon as it comes out. I'm gonna
Favorite
always
feel-good movie
throw
of
this
all
movie
time.
on. Whatever random part could be on, and I know I'm gonna either laugh or I'm gonna fucking cry or I'm gonna be remembered that I'm a small piece of shit.
And on that note, bye.
Bye.